Hello and welcome to the Hannah Judson Beat. I'm Hannah Judson, and this is the first broadcast of the year for me. And so, welcome for those of you who are joining us now. I'm really happy to have Rachael Sage as my first guest of the year. And so today's Sunday. It's early evening in France. It's still morning in on the East Coast, and so thank you for joining me.
My
Um,
pleasure. We just hit noon, so I
okay.
really have no excuse to not be fully awake by now.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well, so what's happening today? Where are you right now?
Right now, I am in New York and it's Sunday, so it's that nether in between day when people assume you have all the free time in the world. You're just hanging out and chilling on your couch, but really it's your most priority day to catch up on all your work when nobody else is sending you email. So that's what today is.
Right.
But it's also the day of my weekly live stream,
Okay.
Stay In with Sage. So probably when you're fast asleep, I will be live streaming at 6 p.m. here in the States.
Okay, excellent. So I've caught your live stream a few times. So
Oh, thank
so
you.
that's really beautiful. So how did you what prompted you to start the live stream? How did that what was
I
the
think
evolution of
I
that?
think like many of our peers, I just felt like, oh wow, so we can't tour as we normally do, but we're performing artists. This is who we are. We need to connect with our audience
Yeah.
and to continue to have that's my version of a conversation.
Yeah.
So, it would just seem unfathomable not to do it. And I think I've done it, 50 weeks in a row or something
Well,
crazy like that. So, just keeping that thread of connection. And
it,
also, it keeps me on my craft and I have the excuse to play new songs and recite new poems and so forth. So, it's all good.
yeah, definitely. So when you first did your first live stream, was that the first time you had done it, or did you
Hmm.
wade into it?
You mean before the pandemic, had I live
Yeah.
streamed?
Yeah.
Not particularly. I mean, maybe I'd done a couple. I remember a few years ago, I was on tour with Beth Hart, and sadly, she became ill. So, one of her very big shows at Town Hall in New York City was canceled. And it happened very last minute. She was fine, but, I had so many friends and family coming and a lot of my loyal listeners. So, rather than not play that night, I remember we ventured back to my Empress Records office in Manhattan and we did a live stream. And we used a platform called Stage It, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And, it's all very vague. I don't think we were particularly comfortable. We were so sad the show had been canceled, but we felt really proud of ourselves that we just did it. And it was myself and James Mastro, my electric guitarist.
Mhm.
And we just sat on the couch in our office and played a bunch of tunes. And I don't know who saw it, but we felt proactive and empowered.
Exactly. So, I remember when Stage It came onto the scene, it was definitely a new paradigm. Like, oh my
Mm.
goodness. So I had thought, oh, so I'll be taking Stage It to the stage with me and broadcasting that way. And
Well,
yeah,
that's
and I,
very ambitious. You did
I
that? My
I
goodness.
experimented with that a few times, but there are so many tools that you can use to stay in touch with people. It's overwhelming. And I think one of the
Definitely.
things, so do you have any like favorite tools that you love or tools that you're like, I'll never touch that again?
Well, to be honest, I keep it pretty simple right now. I'm doing Facebook Live, so I do go through OBS so that I can use my slightly fancier audio equipment. And right now, I don't know if you can see my microphone, probably not, but it is more of a studio mic situation that I'm doing with you. But at another little rig, I have my digital mixer, and so I can add reverb and make it sound a little fancier. So I
Mhm.
go through OBS and then directly to Facebook Live. But I've also done StreamYard like we're doing
Mhm.
today, and Stage It, and a handful of others. But I'm on my own. I'm totally isolated and don't have any help or
Yeah.
anybody techie who has my back. So as simple as it can be is going to
Yeah.
work best for me.
Yeah. It's interesting how nooks and crannies of your home become your stage and your studio,
Yeah.
and sort of getting set up. I have a few little areas where I'm set up for
Well, that
things, and
looks
it's
lovely where you are right now. Very warm. I like your uke behind you in your picture. My setup downstairs at this little house I'm renting right now is much more stage worthy, and it has, you've probably seen it. It's a cute little yellow nook with pillows and
yeah,
decorated nicely, and I have a banner with my artwork behind me. But it's not a great place to record because it's a very open space and right next to the kitchen, and you hear the fridge humming and the birds chirping, and so, but it's perfect for live streaming. And so I actually like keeping them separate, and that way, I'm sure you've encountered this yourself, when you finally get everything up and running. You're so proud of yourself. And then you have to unplug your laptop or use it for something else or move it to another place. And then suddenly nothing works and you can't even figure out why. So I just like,
exactly.
I talk to my computers. I try to be nice to them. Please behave, whatever you need. I'm not going to touch you. Stay here.
It is amazing that all of this works. And I always say it's a really good
It's
thing that I'm not
miraculous.
in
Yeah.
charge. It is miraculous.
You are.
Yeah.
Well, you're in charge
No,
today.
well,
I'm
I mean,
very impressed.
I'm not in charge of reality. Like, I never
That's
would have
true.
come up with this myself. Like, but all of the chords and snakes of things plugging in, I do every now and then just look at it. I'm like, wow,
Yeah, I
I
think we
didn't.
should do that because if we don't appreciate the miracle that is all this connectivity,
Yeah,
then we're only fed the flip side of that and the negativity and the paranoia and all that craziness. So I think it
right.
is really important regularly to take stock of the positive usages of this technology and
Yeah,
how, I mean, my gosh, it's 12:07 on a Sunday. And here I am connecting with you at, what is it, 6 over there, you said?
yeah, yeah. 6 p.m.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is very cool. Definitely, I have memories of visiting my grandparents outside of Boston and being bored and going into the attic, and they had stacks of books that were written in like the teens and 20s that were about uh, um, I'm forgetting the name of it, but they were about this guy who had all these gadgets and he would solve crimes and he would have like a phone in his shoe and all these ideas of, and sometimes I'm like, my iPhone is practically a phone in my shoe. It's
Pretty much,
so close.
yeah. I always say if we've seen it in James Bond, obviously we know it exists and we can, we can do it. I
Yeah.
just realized when I logged on with you, I was in the raw camera settings. So speaking of technology, I can be widescreen. I can be close up.
Oh, look
I
at
think I'm going to go with widescreen because it's, again, it's
it.
early. And then I can make my color more intense.
Oh, look at you.
See, it's like virtual makeup.
Oh,
I was
excellent.
I often get feedback. People are concerned I don't have enough vitamin D
Okay.
because I'm so very pale. So, we want to assuage those people. We don't want them to worry.
Yeah.
And it
Add the
feeds
color.
right into our conversation.
So,
Boom.
so it's
I'm a
really
little
great.
healthier now.
Well, I like that. Um, I was going to say about vitamin D, where I live is really gray right now. It's gray day after day after day, and
Oh,
it's been
sounds
like
very British.
yeah. So we get the rain and the overcast, but when I go outside, I'm always like, there is vitamin D behind those clouds, so I'm going.
There is. That's how you have to look at it because
Yeah,
the sun is not always, waving hello. We have to really just have faith that it's there. And actually,
yeah,
I
yeah.
have a song about that called Blue Sky Days. How
You
about
do?
that? It's all
Do
about
you?
the clouds clearing. It's pretty much about the vitamin D that we know is there but can't see.
Is that a song that you'd like to perform now, or maybe another time?
It's totally up to you. You're the bossy boss.
Okay, well, yeah, let's hear it. That would be
Yeah.
great.
I mean, full disclaimer, I don't really know what's going to come out because as you said, it is rock and roll morning here, but I'll give you at least a little bit.
Okay,
Can you hear that okay?
sounds great.
Blue sky days, white ocean grace, but I don't know where I'm going. I can't see straight. Lying upon the pavement is a moving snake. Feel hope in the dark, reaching out. Recklessness and anger's rushing out my mouth. Gratitude. How could I forget you? Bare feet in sand dunes, melodies from old-fashioned tunes, minty in bed, wisdom that's over my head, but I don't know where I'm going. I can't see straight. The line upon the pavement is a moving snake. Feel hope in the dark or reaching out. Recklessness and anger's rushing out my mouth. Gratitude. How could I forget you? Blue sky days, white oceans, open embrace, but I don't know where I'm going. I can't see straight. A line upon the pavement is a moving snake. Feel hope in the dark or reaching out. Recklessness and anger's rushing out my mouth. Gratitude. How could I forget you? Oh, gratitude. How could I forget you?
That is beautiful. What a lovely
Thank
song.
you.
Yeah, so I think that that song is really a shot in the arm for the way I think a lot of people are feeling right now. And I mean, I think it's an optimistic song, and which I think can be hard to write. Is it hard for you to write
Yes, they're
optimistic
few
songs?
and far between. You're psychic, perhaps because you've encountered that phenomenon yourself. When you're happy and complacent and everything's fine, what is there to write about, right? You have to read a novel or go see a dynamic film to find those points of angst.
Yeah, exactly. So was that song an easy song to write, or did it just arrive, or?
It was not an easy song to write, but it did come quickly. I'll give your listeners a little bit of backstory. The song itself was inspired directly by a kind of a mantra that's used in a meditation app that I was enlisting a couple years ago to help me through a very challenging time, which I will share was actually my cancer experience. So I was doing my best, as one does, to face these challenges head on and with some semblance of sanity and courage, and also appreciation for all of those around me who were doing their best to, keep me centered and feeling positive. And so, yeah, that meditation app had this very specific imagery that was, delivered by a wonderful British accent. I don't know his actual name, but the Headspace guy, talking about the blue clouds that will eventually clear. It's important not to forget that even though you feel hopeless or overwhelmed or full of anxiety, I'm not doing him justice, but he was so calming. And then, I was able to put all of that emotion and determination into a song that I like to think really does celebrate gratitude, even in the most doubtful times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that that really comes through. And I think because, gratitude and joy and, optimism and all of those states that we experience really come with a counterpart. They exist in spite of everything else. And I think that that's sort of part of adulthood, when you really are firmly on your feet in adulthood, that you carry both of those things.
Yes,
And
you
I think
you
that that
welcome that duality and you don't try to fight it quite as much as you might otherwise.
exactly. Yeah. So it's I mentioned that it's really gray where I am right now, and every now and then I just say to myself, okay, so where's the sunshine? How do I bring the sunshine into this day? And I have my silly things I do. What do you do to bring sunshine into your days,
Hmm.
whether it's there or not?
Yeah. I mean, my go-tos are certainly music and art. And when I'm making stuff, I do feel that empowerment of creation, and
Yeah.
while officially, as they say, there may be nothing new under the sun, it feels like it is brand new because you're discovering it for the first
Yeah.
time, whether it's something you're writing or even just putting yourself into that state where you're receptive to the muse, lighting some candles and sitting down with your journal or sitting down with your paints and your canvas, even if it's not fruitful, at the end of that venture, just being open in that way is a kind of, you know, French doors opening, so to speak. You are allowing something outside of yourself, something larger than yourself, and perhaps, that you cannot control entirely to
Yeah.
permeate the membrane of yourself.
Yeah.
And you may not have complete control over how it manifests, but you definitely have control over whether you're open or you're closed.
Yeah. Well, you described that state really in a beautiful way. Just how things arrive, how it goes through you, permeates. I think was the word that you used, and I think that it's something that we can be conscious of and arrive
Hmm.
at with sort of with consciousness. But definitely, you also said, nothing may come of it, but that's the idea of product. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to have a product at the end, and
That's
what do you
right.
have to show
I
for it?
didn't really mean nothing. I meant,
Yeah.
yes, I meant no final product may come of that, or something what you would conceive as being polished or ready to share with others. But something always comes of it.
Something
That's
always
where
comes
you're
in, and
going, aren't you, Hannah?
well, I just think it's so interesting how you can sort of go down, like you can have those moments and things build in your subconscious. And so you might be
Definitely.
working this song or whatever I'm working on, not working, put it aside, and then boom, you do something else. And it's all there, but you wouldn't have
Yeah.
gotten to it without the thing that wasn't
I'm
working.
not the best at implementing that approach necessarily. I am one of these people who tends to hyper focus, and I do like to really stick with something and kind of wrestle with it into some kind of submission,
Yeah.
whether it's I'm not going to put it down until I get the first verse at least, or I have the melody. Like I'm very admittedly goal oriented, even when I am, just beginning a creative process. But it's all relative. So for me, that may mean I'm not going to get to the whole thing without
Yeah.
putting it down and coming back to it.
Yeah.
But when I do creativity workshops occasionally with other people, especially young people, I take much more of your tact there with encouraging people to not have that expectation of completing anything. It's not what it's about. It is really about the process and continuing to sensitize yourself so you even recognize when something is kind of keeper, when it resonates and when it sparks and lights you up, and then you have something special.
Yeah. 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 So you have a background of all sorts of different things. You have studied dancing, you studied art, you've studied probably other things, theater, and
Hmm.
um, so do you
Not
have
that
any?
many other things. Those are pretty much the
Did
things.
I just nail it? So do you have anything? Do you feel like you are all of those things, or are you're a musician first? And how
Hmm.
does art and theater and poetry, how does it all work together for you? Or does it not? Like,
No, it does. I think, I'm just kind of a bohemian artiste by nature. And I've been that way since I was 4 or 5 years old. I remember, I grew up in a pretty strict family. We had a lot of rules and there were certain expectations to behave and, be proper little children. But I will say that one very progressive and just, you know, incredibly wise thing that my mother did when we were young, was she really let us make mistakes when it came to art and praised our mistakes. She may not have praised, the clothes all over the floor in our bedrooms, but, when it came to making art and the creative process, there's one very vivid memory I have um, of crying as a little kid. Maybe I was 2.5, 3 years old. And I was only allowed to paint with permanent paints on the floor of my bathroom because, of course, there was tile and you could clean it up. So,
Mhm.
don't do it on the carpet, do it on that floor. And I spilled my watercolors and they went all over the floor. And I remember running to my mom and saying, I'm sorry, I was crying. I was like, I can't, I've spilled. And she looked at the piece of paper with all of the spilled watercolor, water from the glass where my brush had been and everything just swirling together. And she said, honey, this is your first modern art painting. This is beautiful. And she framed it and put it on my bedroom wall. And that was probably the best lesson in art that I think I've ever had. I'm going to get verklempt,
Yeah.
because it really taught me so many things in that moment. It taught me, first of all, it's okay to make mistakes. Second of all, that the thing you least expect to be beautiful is often, more beautiful than the one you intend or when you're
Yeah.
trying so hard and being so deliberate. And most importantly, it taught me about spontaneity and improvisation and all of that just in that little lesson. So
Yeah.
sorry for the ramble, but that
No.
really sticks out to me. So I
Yeah.
think just being an artist foremost, and then eventually discovering the piano, singing, it's all one thing to me. I
Mhm,
really do
mhm.
think of it as one creative continuum, whether I'm a musician or acting or doing graphic design, whatever it
Yeah.
may be.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what are you working on right now?
I am finishing a spoken word album,
Oh, wow.
which is derived from many, many poems that I have written not only through the years, but over these last 9, 10 months. And so I'm, simultaneously recording the vocals for them and also arranging the music. So it's kind of like a film score meets spoken word. That's my big
Wow.
project right now.
So is there an overarching narrative or is it like individual chapters or individual pieces?
It is individual pieces, but I do think there is a narrative, and I have tried to select the pieces. I mean, I had like 500 pieces, and I had to record a lot of them and sort of put them aside, and then really narrow in on the ones that felt representative of this particular time period
Yeah.
since lockdown. So I guess it's kind of like my, you know, poetry record under lockdown is the theme. And so some of it does incorporate, um, the socio political landscape that we've all been navigating together
Mhm.
while isolated at
Yeah.
home. And also, the interpersonal dynamics with those we love from whom we're separated. And, anything you can think of, I guess, that one would write about under these circumstances.
Yeah. So in the course of writing, was it therapeutic? Was it
Hmm.
helpful to you? Did you arrive at a new understanding of this era? Do you have a different relationship with this
That's a
era
tall
than you used
order.
to?
I didn't really put that kind of pressure on myself in creating this particular collection. I mean, I think it's it's more of a chronicle than it is a directive in any way, whether to myself or to other people. So, that's kind of more what I consider to be my job as a songwriter, is to capture and filter through my
Mhm.
my lens what's going on, and hopefully to create something beautiful out of it in the process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, did you have any other songs ready to perform for us?
Oh,
Were you thinking?
well, let's see. I was actually thinking I could do a poem, but now I'm
Oh,
looking around and realizing I moved all those pieces downstairs. So how about I'll do a newer song that I am also in the process of recording. This is called Revelation Ground.
okay, excellent.
In the hall of my darkness, in the love of my light, in the shroud of my solace, I hear fight, fight, fight. In the sound of my breathing, there's a soft singing bone. In the grasp of my grieving, I hear groan, groan, groan. There's a time for reflection. There's a time for pain. There's a time for letting go. There's a time to let the rain fall down on the revelation ground. On the revelation ground. In the scene on the movie screen, there's a message of hope. It's a season for listening through time's stethoscope. In the scene on the Instagram, there's a message of love. It's a season for reveling in the quiet cooing dove. There's a time for reflection. There's a time for pain. There's a time for letting go. There's a time to let the rain fall. Time to let the rain fall down on the revelation ground. On the revelation. Ah, da, 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 da. Ah, da, 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 da. Ah, da, 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 da. In the hall of my darkness, in the love of my light, in the shroud of my solace, I hear fight, fight, fight.
Yay! Thank
Aw,
you.
thank
That
you
was
for listening.
that is beautiful. As you were singing it, I was like, this is already a classic. That sounds like a classic
Oh,
song. Like, I
thank you,
mean,
Hannah.
that will travel through time because I think
I was
that
kind of what I was going for, but you never know. You just sit down and write these things. But I did have this image in my mind's eye of kind of a 1960s folk
yeah,
review sort of a vibe. And I was writing it
absolutely.
from the attic of a little Airbnb in Connecticut under lockdown at the beginning of all of this. And just trying to get Leonard Cohen's virtual blessing.
I hear that's wonderful. I heard that. I definitely what I was picturing sort of Joan Baez and Bob Dylan on stage.
Oh,
So
thank you.
that's where I was with that, but absolutely Leonard Cohen
I
too.
will take it.
That's a yeah. So tell me a little bit about your songwriting influence. Like, did you
Sure.
start with your parents' record collection and move from there?
You know, it's probably good that I didn't, even though I've come to enjoy their taste in music. But I'm a child of the '70s, so I think while I came to all of that music later, they weren't as hip to the Carole Kings and James Taylors. They were listening to like disco, So nothing wrong with that, but I think I was in my own little weird bubble of classical music from ballet.
Mm,
And then, on a positive note, via my dad, um, whenever I was in their car, he was always playing a station called CBS FM, which was oldies, and so I heard the you know top 100 countdown of '50s doo-wop music like a zillion times.
mm,
So that was a big influence on me. Just these very classic but simple melodic songs from people like, the Drifters and the Coasters and the Temptations, and then also the Beatles a little bit sprinkled in there too. So I think I had this mix of like doo-wop and R&B and classical, and then beyond that, it was just whatever I picked up on my own in school from friends. And I had some friends with great musical taste, probably edgier, hipper taste than my own family. No offense, family. But like
yeah.
there was no Led Zeppelin in my house, and there wasn't even like the Grateful Dead or the Who or the Rolling Stones. Oddly, I don't know. Not even the Doors. I had to get all that from my best friend Jenny in junior high school.
See, exactly. Music is absolutely a journey, and it's a journey of other people, like as you go through.
Totally,
And
yeah.
I do think it's kind of interesting now how we have Spotify and iTunes and all this stuff, and kids can just listen to anything at any time. And so
Mm.
they're not relying on one another's collections to
Yeah. Oh,
have
my
these
my
experiences.
niece has been exposed to more music, and she's a young preteen, and she knew all the music I had absorbed, in 40 plus years by the time she was like 6. It's
Right.
incredible. So,
It is
mm,
incredible. Yeah. So definitely it's good to have friends who have
good
good
curated taste.
journeys, good
Good
musical
A&R
journeys.
friends.
Yeah, exactly. So
Actually, yeah, and in college, I really feel like I kind of came into my own even more in terms of my influences. But in high school, I really was in this weird bubble of imagination. I wasn't listening to that much music, and I was probably expressing the music I heard in my head more as a result of my expressiveness through ballet and also being an actress. I was in a lot of plays in junior high school and high school. So I was hearing a lot of Shakespeare's language, and I think that was a huge influence on me lyrically. Um, and then in college, I heard Ani DeFranco and Sean
yeah.
Colvin and Suzanne Vega and all of these powerhouse neo folk women definitely influenced me a lot.
Yeah. I would say same. Like in
Oh,
terms of yeah,
cool.
that's yeah. So
Lilith
that's
Fair, right? Was a big
yeah.
moment for.
And and you participated in Lilith Fair.
I
So
did just a little bit. I
yeah,
played one show, in, I think it was 1999, on their village stage, and it was an amazing day.
that's
Yeah.
very cool. So how did that come about?
Actually, I submitted to a contest, their local talent search, and I think they had one in every major city around that time. And I auditioned twice prior. So I think I auditioned the first 2 years, and I was a finalist. I was called back, yada da da. But I didn't get in. So I just got more and more determined. That's the kind of person I am. When I hear a no, it just makes me want to figure it out and
Right on.
try things differently. And I had this song called Sister Song that I had composed really in honor of Ani DeFranco and her journey as an openly bisexual musician and artist and very socially conscious person who was constantly fielding all kinds of likely annoying questions about her personal life and whatnot. So I wrote this song for her. And when it came time around to audition again for Lilith Fair, I thought, I think this is the one. So I got up and I really I kind of didn't care so much anymore. I just went for it. And then that was, of course, when it worked out.
That's neat. That's a
Yeah.
that was a monumental tour, and that was, that was happening in a period of time when it's amazing to me that there would be a tour for women. Like,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to me still when I look at, you look at, um, I'm forgetting the word. My English is going.
That's okay. You can
But
say it to me in français
said in
if
but
you would
you look at
like.
the bill of on different clubs and stuff, and it's still that sometimes there's no women or like one
Mm,
act maybe or whatever. And it was definitely when I was in Chicago, when I started really getting into sort of the band scene. I did music my whole life, but it was in Chicago that I started playing with other people and performing.
mhm.
And there were many times when I was the only woman in the whole lineup and it's incredible to me that it's still like that in many
I'm glad
ways.
you brought this up because I'm actually working with my record label Empress this week on helping plan one of our new artists' releases, Grace Pettis. And if you haven't heard her yet, she's amazing. Voice of an angel, but also a powerhouse, kind of whisper to scream type of a talent. And she decided, because of what you just noted, that she wanted to undertake uh, an album process using only women and non-binary people. So,
Wow.
you know, that shouldn't be so challenging. It should be easy to do. And yet, when one endeavors to do this, one realizes, there are certain realms in music, particularly engineering and mixing, where there are many fewer women. So it becomes a little bit of a quest. And she just made a gorgeous record. And yeah, so
I
I'm
love
gonna
that.
make sure I share that with you because I
Yeah,
think
I
you'll
need
be
to. Yeah,
very impressed.
definitely. Yeah, very cool. I think that's yeah, definitely things are changing. It's funny because when I grew up, when I was a little kid, I knew about women's lib and the
Hmm.
people, people who were fight and I thought, okay, that's good. So that's happened. And so
Right.
I grew up
Yeah, I thought
thinking
that
it's
too.
all fair. It's all like I get and it took me years to realize that we are pushing against an invisible
Yeah.
no, I would say, and other things too. But
There's a lyric, right? We could
yeah,
both write
write
that
that down,
song, come back to
right?
each other, see what we have.
Exactly. So it is interesting. Yeah, that.
It
So
is. And yet, like, I have always been of the mind that the best way to change these things is to lead the way, to forge a new path and to not wait around
yeah,
for anybody to make that change. So I really applaud Grace for doing that, and
yeah.
also you for doing what you do, and Muse Fest for putting that together. I mean, you really put your own whole version of a type of Lilith Fair together not too long ago. So yay
Yeah. Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so that but and it's interesting because when I was in Chicago and I was sort of feeling like it's so weird that what I just mentioned, I
Mhm.
did start before Lilith Fair. I started producing lineups of just women in bands, and it just seemed like the natural important thing to do at that point in time. And it came very naturally to me. I'm not I didn't want to be a producer or anything, but
Yeah.
I was like, nobody's doing that. Somebody needs to do that.
You're a damn
Um,
good one, whether you like it or not. And you know that my friend and right-handed Empress Meredith Tarr, we had the same reaction when we, were observing how you presented all of
oh,
our
excellent.
peers in that festival. So
Yeah.
kindred spirits for sure, and I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
do
uh,
something together in the future.
Yeah. Hopefully. Well, so during the past 9 months or 10 months, you've probably not traveled very much. You've been home.
Not at all. Yeah, I literally went from Connecticut to New York, and that's been the extent of my travels. And they were very careful and double masked and visored, and it's this is a weird, really
Yeah.
difficult time for everyone. But I see the light and I see change happening, and I'm
Yeah.
just trying to continue to enlist my patience powers and encourage everyone I know to do the same as best as they can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great message. I think also because we've been in this for so long, sometimes you can forget you're in it and you wonder why you feel so not
Yeah.
well or
Yeah.
something that
Oh,
it
yeah.
can,
I've definitely had my ups and downs every day, and thank goddess for music, really.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
goddess for music and small percussion carrying me
Yeah.
through.
So, do you have any trips in your imagination where
Hmm.
you will go when you can?
I have always had a creed by which I lived my most of my adult life, and it is go where the love is. And so
Oh,
that's where I'm going to go
oh,
because, I that it's a Yiddish saying, but I feel like it's become a wider saying. Man plans and God laughs, or woman plans and God laughs. So while I think we are very much in the planning business, and we do have to cast lines constantly and pitch venues and pitch people on our music and what we have to offer as performers, I think that's only half of the picture. And there's always this element of unpredictability and surprise that comes into play for any touring artist like myself, even under lockdown. And that is, you have to allow for the unknown, for the unplanned. And I've had this happen so many times I can't even count, where I had a whole type of a tour planned. Maybe I even had it 80% booked. And then mere weeks before, something else came up that I'm not allowed to use the T word anymore, but that replaced that plan and for the better. So I try to really keep that in mind and not be too rigid. Um,
yeah. Yeah.
Cover
I
my
guess,
bases, but allow for possibility.
yeah. Yeah. Good. Very good. Well, do you have any final thoughts or part,
I
or maybe,
do.
yeah.
Here's my final thought.
Yeah.
Your leopard sweater is fabulous,
Thank you.
and it's a reflection of your fiery spirit that is in complete symbiosis with your friend Rachael Sage in New York.
All
So,
right. All right. Well, thank you. So this sweater has traveled with me for many kilometers and many years, and it comes from a
awesome.
store in Chicago. I've had it for years.
I love
It
Chicago.
it's been on the out pile many times, and I'm like, wait a minute.
No, no, no. No out pile for that. That's funny.
Good. Great,
Aw.
great. So,
Yeah,
well,
thank you.
so nice to spend the morning, early evening with you today. And I,
Yes.
I wish you all good things with your projects, with your
Likewise.
poetry, spoken word, and music album. So, when are
Thank
we
you.
going to be able to hear that?
Well, I'm probably going to be finished tracking it all. When I say tracking, I mean sending files back and forth to people by the end of this month. And then February at some point, I'll endeavor to mix. So I don't know. Seeing as we live in the future in this business, my guess is summer will be
Yeah.
when I'll share that album.
Oh,
But I may
nice.
put out a single or two before then. So
Oh,
keep an
I
eye out. And I have
definitely.
a remix coming of my song Cave from my current album Character, which came
Okay.
out last year. And that is coming February 19th. And it's really fun. It's like a EDM world music type of a remix with accordion and Spanish
Oh,
guitar and
cool.
violin. So
Oh, that's lovely.
thank you.
So I look forward to hearing everything that you release next. Your songwriting is beautiful. Your songs are
Thank you,
really
Hannah.
important, and so it's nice to be following you and to hear your music because it's really.
Likewise.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for having
Yeah.
me. This was
Yes.
fabulous.
Yeah. This was fun. So stay in touch.
Of course.
And I
Bien
hope that.
sûr.
Uh,
Bonsoir. That's all I know how to
So,
say today. Every
so
day there are different
thank you
French
for
words
coming.
that I know how to say.
Me too. But not all at once. So good. All right. Well, so thanks. And next week on the Hannah Judson Beat, Frida Love Smith is joining us. And so be sure to tune in again next week. So thanks for tuning in.
Bye.